Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you.
Brother,
What you gonna do?
you'll never see me coming.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was like, what you gonna do when Dr. DC comes down on you? Oh, well, it's the news. It's time for the news. Who would have thought it's the news? Because it's the news.
Do you have any more reviews?
No, we don't.
I have one.
Do you?
That came in a while ago, but I know we haven't read it.
Check you.
So I thought I would do that. And if I was smarter, I'd have loaded it earlier, but here we go.
Because you did not. We'll just sing over this time.
That's Charlie Brown.
I'm walking on air.
Oh my god, we're all over the place. Yeah, but you like how I'm holding my phone like I'm like 60 and I don't know how to use it?
I'm expecting you to like lower your glasses down to the tip of your nose.
Right, so we got a review here on the Facebook. It's from Matthew Poulter.
Chicken Matty.
That's right. 5-star review on Facebook, and it says, I'm obviously biased because I've been on the show as a guest, but if you're wanting a fun, good-natured, informative, and just all-around great podcast about some of the most iconic comics in the history of the medium, the Doctor has just the prescription for you.
Oh.
It's Xanax. No, he didn't write that. That's just me.
That's us.
Yeah, I'll write you a prescription for Xanax. Leave a 5-star review, and I will write you a prescription for Xanax.
Wow, I didn't know you were that kind of doctor. I've been so low for so
I
long.
am now. We need those reviews. But yeah, so thank you for the review.
Chicken Matty, good job.
We're working our way towards 52. We're already. I did a count today. I think we're at 40.
We've made a lot of promises, and I've been trying to I'm having a challenging time keeping them straight. So 52 reviews, and we
52 reviews. We each get
a
DC
tattoo.
Comics tattoo.
Yeah, I've already got mine designed now.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I think well, I've been soliciting some ideas. I think I have a rough idea of what I'm gonna get.
I know. I saw you posting onto the Patreon.
Yeah, if you want to weigh in
Yeah,
in a non-binding,
you want to weigh in, pay out
in a non-binding manner, then yeah, you could join our Patreon. But yeah, yes, if we get to 52 reviews, that's what's happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, let's get into the news.
Oh, just, for the record.
Jesus Christ. Stop making that noise if you're not ready to get into it.
Fine, I'm sorry.
No. Finish what you were going to say.
No, I'm just, let's
No. Forget it now.
We're just going to get into it.
No. There's no point.
It's totally fine.
No. You were going to say something. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, this news obviously doesn't include anything from Comic-Con because it's a special. It's its own little thing.
Wow. That would have been nice if you had said it before making the noise. On that note, Titans crew member killed in stunt rehearsal.
Don't say it like that. We can't say it like that. It's very, very sad news. But yes, one of the stunt coordinators on Titans was killed. Although I think when I saw this headline, they hadn't released much information. Do we know what exactly has happened?
The details
have they told us yet? Or?
The details I know was they were doing testing for a stunt that was going to happen on the show at an exterior facility, and something happened that ended up in.
Yeah, which is, that's, it is a risky profession, but that it's all oriented around how do you do this safely, but it doesn't mean that 100% of the time that, that they make that work or whatever. The same thing happened. Well, not the same thing because different circumstances, but a couple of years ago, a stunt coordinator died on Deadpool 2.
That's right.
During a motorcycle stunt. Extremely dangerous line of work, which is why it's even more outrageous that stunt coordinators aren't there's
dying constantly.
Well, but that there's not a category for them at awards.
Oh yeah.
How is there not a best stunt choreography or stunt coordination at the Oscars?
Is there really not?
No, there's not.
That's whack.
You know what I mean? They put just as much into these things as anyone else. But yeah, very, very sad news. So,
Too bad I wasn't on the set of Black Lightning.
Jesus.
Next piece.
That was so not the tone to set. My God.
Brandon Ruth and Tyler Hoechlin to play Superman in Arrowverse crossover.
Yeah. So Tyler Hoechlin already plays.
That's what it is. Well, it's with an O. It's not my fault.
It's OE. It's a German root, right? OE makes a sound.
Thanks. I thought you were a doctor, not a professor.
This is the Professor DC. He already plays Superman on Supergirl.
Yeah.
So he was in the crossover last year. So him playing Superman is not like news.
No, but the fact that there's
Brandon Ruth, who played Superman in Superman Returns. So first, he played Superman in Superman Returns. So when people were like, Brandon Ruth is going to be in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, everyone was like, holy shit, they're bringing the movies in. But then he did a further reveal, which is that he's playing Kingdom Come Superman.
Which is insane.
In the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
That they're bringing that in.
Yeah, which is pretty wild. So, I don't know if they're trying to imply that his movie Superman, like that universe, eventually goes to Kingdom Come.
Whoa.
Or if he's just playing a Kingdom Come Superman, and that's a fun little nod or whatever. But either way, very cool. I don't know if this is still in the news. So I apologize if I'm jumping ahead, but another announcement of someone that signed on for that crossover is Burt Ward.
That's right.
Who played Robin in the 60s Batman series. We don't know if he's meant to be playing like
Robin,
Dick Grayson, or if he's just playing someone else, but because he's in there, it's a nod, in the way that like Linda Carter played the president on Supergirl or like that sort of thing. Burt Ward also signed on. So, I mean, I'm very excited for that crossover. It's going to be pretty dope, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Next piece of news.
All right.
The headphones still don't work, eh?
No.
I don't know.
I'm gonna bear back this. I'm gonna go no headphones.
Ooh, make sure you spit on it first. Supergirl star Makad Brooks to say goodbye in season 5 / Jeremy Jordan will make his return.
Okay, so who is Jeremy Jordan?
The guy who her like best friend.
Oh yes, but Makad Brooks is Jimmy Olsen.
Yes.
He will be leaving, but we're getting the return of a different series regular. So just swapping things out. I imagine it will have something to do, probably maybe with. I mean, sometimes actors have other projects and that you get written out of a show. That stuff happens. But also they might just try and time it with the Crisis thing because the idea of doing this crossover is that at the end of it, it will be one universe. Not
there will be
multiple.
One.
Right now, Supergirl is on like Earth 38 or something.
There can only be one.
Yeah, like Highlander. Yeah. Exactly. But like maybe infusing all of these universes and timelines and whatever together, there's just no room for Jimmy Olsen anymore. Or rather, they're probably just taking the opportunity to write out someone who is like willing to move on.
Yes. Yeah. Next piece of news. Nth Metal Man stars in new Metal Men title this fall.
Yeah, we're getting a new 12-issue limited series about the Metal Men, who are those are like the robots.
Iron Man.
Well, there is an Iron.
Okay.
But they're the robots who they're created by
Ozzy Osbourne.
They're created by Will Magnus, and basically they derive their personalities from the thing they're made of. But it's like gold, lead, iron, tin, platinum, mercury.
Is that why you're made of bullshit?
Copper has been one of them in the past, but we're getting a new Metal Men made out of nth metal, which is the metal that like Hawkman and Hawkgirl use to fly. It's an alien metal, it has anti-gravity and anti-magic properties and stuff like that. So we're getting a new Metal Men made of nth metal for that series, which is pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. Is that why you're that Betamax tape?
What?
Let's try. So you're a beta male. Let's try to find a way to make it like the thing you were made it of.
Right.
By while insulting you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you did a really good job of that.
Yeah. Let's try it. Oh, I guess we're done the news. You're really just all over the map today with your songs.
I am.
Let's move on.
All right.
Death of Superman and Nightfall to be retold in dark multiverse tie-ins.
Yeah, this is kind of like a DC version of like the Marvel What If sort of stuff. But basically there's these two versions. They're the first two of a bunch that are coming, but it's Tales from the Dark Multiverse. So remember we talked about this. It's like the Dark Multiverse is like where the story went wrong. It's broken. It's like
wrong. It's wrong.
It's the wrong version of the story. So one we're getting is a version of Death of Superman where when Superman dies, Lois goes nuts and gets powers. And
that's fucking cool.
That is where that story goes.
Hell yeah.
And in Nightfall, it's one where Jean-Paul Valley as Azrael, when he takes over as Batman, becomes like a tyrant. Like Bruce never takes the mantle back.
Oh shit.
And yeah, it becomes like a thing like that. So those two are the first ones there, but I think I read something to the effect that they were also maybe going to do like a dark multiverse sort of What If, Infinite Crisis.
Ooh.
Maybe one for like a couple of different stories. So
that's right.
Be kind of neat to see where those go. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I like that idea of this.
That is
one.
the stuff
Fuck.
I'm way more interested in, frankly, than more just Batman Who Laughs. Like that stuff it feels like it's kind of fizzled out a little bit to me. Like I've lost some of my excitement for that character.
Yeah.
But I haven't lost my excitement for like all of the broken, like different dark multiverse versions of events or things like that. I am into that idea still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Next piece of news. DC announced new Batman comic by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch.
Oh yeah, that's right. I can't. I did see this. Can you just remind me what's special about this one?
Yes.
Other than it's Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch.
Obviously one of the most legendary creative partnerships in modern comic book history. Yeah. So reunited this fall for The Batman's Grave, a 12-issue monthly DC maxi series about life, death, and the questions most are too afraid to ask. The team that brought us The Authority now turn to their talents towards the world's greatest detective, whose current case forces him to inhabit the mind of a murder victim with a half-eaten face without filling the empty grave next to those of his parents.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's basically just another Batman story from a cool creative team. Like, The Authority is...
Another Batman story?
Yeah, that thunder is extremely well timed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, The Authority was, like, a neat story, but, like, I don't know. There's nothing, like...
Super
There's
special?
nothing, like... There's no sense of urgency to me about this Batman story. Like, this is the Batman story you've been waiting for. It needs telling right now.
I'm super into the artwork for this, though.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Hitch is a pretty solid artist. Yeah, I really like his work that he did the first 12 issues of Hawkman, the current series, and they were fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it's just another Batman story. Like, it's not like a thing that I'm gonna scramble for, but I'm sure it'll be good. If you're into Batman, get it. But if you only have so much room in your pull list and Batman's not like your number one priority, then maybe wait for the trade or something.
Throwing shade.
I don't mean to throw shade. It's not that I don't think it'll be good, but it's just one of those things where it's not like
monumental.
It's also not like, it's not like an event or something. It's just like another Batman story. We already have Batman and Detective Comics and Batman and the Outsiders and, you know.
Well, on that note, another Batman piece of news. No, this one's cool.
All right, hit me.
Batman just made Brooklyn Nine-Nine part of DC's universe.
Oh, yeah. In Batman number 75, I think. The most recent one in the Tom King run. There's basically, it's the city of Bane arc. Bane's taken over Gotham, and a bunch of the other villains are like, basically, weirdly operating as like city officials or administrators. But there's a shot in a GCPD precinct, and it's two desks that face each other, and Riddler and Joker have spray painted their names over the nameplates, but the nameplates say Detective Santiago and Detective Peralta. So yes, it's like a little nod to their seating arrangement and to Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Is the city of Bane in New England?
Why are you saying that?
Maybe it's like Maine?
No, it's Gotham, but Bane's taken over. Gotham's in New Jersey.
Cool. Swinging a miss.
Swing bada.
That was the last piece of news.
Hey.
So it's time to head into this week's theme.
That's right.
Speaking of characters with very good rogues galleries.
Yeah, we're talking about like the lineup of villains that assemble sort of around superheroes.
Why do they call it a rogues gallery?
I'm not sure if it's actually coined from the fact that the Flash has a villain team called the Rogues, but it's calling it a is basically like, you know, if you were in a museum or whatever, like what is the hall of villains that this hero would have? That's their gallery of rogues. But yeah, so that's why they call them like rogues galleries.
Cool.
So, you know, it's basically just like who is the roster of villains associated to a specific hero, right? You know, the Joker is part of Batman's rogues gallery, you know.
Well, where, like, do you know what the etymology is at all?
Like the etymology of the words?
Well, I just mean that, like, why is it rogues?
Well, like I said, I don't know if it's actually true or not. There's some rumor that it's because the Flash has a villain team called the Rogues. And then it sort of came from that. But I think it's just because they are rogues.
I suppose.
It's maybe a slightly broader term than villain because it includes their sort of anti-heroes, just general adversaries. I think maybe that's part of it. But no, I don't know, like, the inception point. I don't know when it was coined.
I would say that, like, I only really knew of the term in referring to Batman.
Right.
Or at least that's a thing that, like, had brought me into understanding of what that term was.
Sure. Well, and Batman certainly has the most well-known, the most popular rogues gallery. The one that people can probably name the most members of. That or Spider-Man. Those are two very, very big ones.
That's true. Yeah. It's pretty even, I think. Yeah, definitely. We got a lot of questions for it.
We did, yeah. Let's do it. Let's hop right in.
Hopping in rogue galleries.
Is that a theme-specific drop?
Yeah.
Okay, that was nice. Do it like you're less ashamed next time.
It's a rogues gallery.
Very villainous. I like it.
All right. First comes from Facebook.
Go to the face and the book. Go to the Facebook. Are you just adding snaps?
Well, because it's everything. Because you do everything so jazzy. I can't help it. You got so much natural rhithm.
Thank you.
First question comes from Chad Bokelman, who asks, personally speaking, God, this man loves to like start, like, he loves to like.
Why are you chirping? He's asking a question.
Because it's Chad. He loves to like set up that he's about to ask a question that's either going to challenge or like be monumental in some sort. Personally speaking, and
You're so salty off the top.
Well, you know what? I had a lot of sweet. And I could be biased as he's one of my top 5. I believe Firestorm's actually one of the most underrated rogues galleries in the DCU. Yeah. I mean, the Flash show keeps stealing them, so...
That's true.
Black Bison... Oh, my brother's calling me. I think he's really mad because he sent me that piece of news about Brooklyn Nine-Nine and I didn't respond to it.
Right.
And I think he's getting pissy that I didn't like make some sort of comment about it, but I'm working and I was busy.
Yeah. Yeah, do you hear that?
Robin, Black Bison, Multiplex, Multipass. Yeah, Multiplex. Killer Frost, Plastique. Given how popular and extensive Flash's own rogues are, what do you think is so compelling about Firestorm's rogues that they decided to steal them?
Yeah, well, I mean, answering that question, I guess, ties to the fact that, like, there was a decision made clearly very early on that Firestorm was going to be part of that show, right? Because when you bring in Caitlin Snow, even though for the first couple of seasons she wasn't Killer Frost, when you bring in Caitlin Snow, you're saying, like, there's more to this world than we're not just doing, like, a bubble of Flash. And we already knew that because Green Arrow was over here in that show. But, like, you're already establishing that. We knew that we had Ronnie Raymond and Martin Stein. Like, Firestorm was part of that first season. Like, That's a big subplot of that season is them finding and aiding Firestorm. So
Firestorm AIDS?
No. So it makes...
They AIDS to Firestorm?
Jesus. So it makes sense to incorporate at least some of the Firestorm lore. So yeah, I mean, Killer Frost, even though Killer Frost and Firestorm don't really share much screen time on that show. Firestorm ends up sort of migrating to Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Before Killer Frost is really a full thing. You see like their Earth 2 versions a bit in second season and stuff like that, but they don't actually get all that much screen time as those characters together.
No, totally.
But you see them. Multiplex is another Firestorm villain that you see who can replicate themselves. His name is Danton Black, and he can basically make like multiple versions of himself. You get one called Takamak, who is like also has like he's sort of like a human nuclear reactor. In the comics, he does the same experiment that causes Firestorm. He does it to himself to try and give himself powers, and he gets like a different version of the powers. He has to wear this like containment suit. But they do that in the show when Ronnie dies and Martin Stein like needs another half. There's an episode where it's like, is it going to be Jax or is it going to be this other guy? And the other guy gets like an unstable version of the power. His name is Henry Hewitt, and he becomes Takamak. So he's in there. Black Bison was just in this most recent season. She's got the ability to, via like a totem, can basically animate inanimate objects. That's how the show did it. In the comics, it's a male character. His name is John Ravenhair.
Let me take a wild guess. Does he have raven hair?
Well, he's like a First Nations descent.
Yeah.
Cause it's like tied to like, it's like that sort of like spirituality. That's where that power like comes from in the comics. I mean,
another white girl stealing the, culture from a First Nations man.
Well, no, she wasn't white in the show. I think they did a decent job at the casting, actually. Yeah.
Oh, well then fuck me.
But yes, to Bokelman's point, they have used a bunch of Firestorm villains. Plastique was in the first season and dies, but she was in there. She's the one that can make anything explode, basically turn anything into a bomb. Barry like runs her out over the lake because her powers get unstable or something.
Yes.
They've all been in there. Really, of the big ones, I think we just are missing like Typhoon. We haven't seen Typhoon yet. It's a big Firestorm villain. I think it starts because Firestorm is incorporated, so you obviously have gotten like the rights or whatever to use that sort of stable of characters, so you might as well use them. But also, at a certain point, I think they bring in Black Bison, because, you still need like kind of a villain of the week sort of thing. But also, this past season dealt a lot with like the meta tech. And that was a way of introducing that this item, this totem, could allow someone to animate inanimate. Like, they had a story way kind of into that ability a little bit. So I think that's part of the reason too. But also, I mean, I think they just have dynamic, like interesting powers. Someone that can make anything a bomb, that's a cool power. Someone who is themselves an unstable nuclear reaction, that's a cool power. Someone with ice powers, cool power, and it's not...
Someone with ice
cool power. You know what I mean? Like, I do actually agree that Firestorm's villains are generally pretty dope, but most people probably don't know them all that well. Or if you're watching the Flash show, might not recognize that they're not Flash villains.
Yeah.
It's not like they started as Flash villains, then when Firestorm came on the scene, they sort of migrated. They were developed as adversaries for Firestorm.
Oh, wow.
All of them, including Killer Frost.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there is actually like there's a pretty cool, colorful collection of characters that like oppose Firestorm.
Was Killer Frost in the comics? Was there a connection like there is like with Ronnie?
No, that was sort of manufactured for the show. But like Caitlin Snow is really the third version of Killer Frost. The first one, her name was Crystal Frost or something like that, and she was just a villain. Except in Crisis on Infinite Earths, where she's emotionally manipulated into being in love with Firestorm. Mm. But that's like, so that they could work together. Yeah. It's like a temporary thing. The second Killer Frost, Louise Lincoln, was a pretty long-serving version of the character. And then in the New 52, Caitlin Snow was the new Killer Frost, who's more anti-heroic and now pretty heroic, like eventually joins the Justice League.
Oh, wow.
Her version of it is more like, she's almost like a heat vampire. like she has to feed on the body heat or the energy of someone else in order to survive, because she's like entropy, right? That's why she's got these cold and frost abilities. So it's almost like a sickness as opposed to just like, I can make ice, I am a villain.
So
it's a little more complex. So
might you say that she is down with the sickness?
Ooh, wah!
Down with the sickness.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a specific answer for why they went to it, other than that I agree that they're pretty cool characters, and since you've already decided that Firestorm's in there, you might as well use them.
But I mean, they've used they have a lot of other superheroes that they haven't pulled from. It's interesting that like Plastic Man, things like that, right? Like,
well, but I mean, I see what you're saying, but Elongated Man doesn't necessarily have a stable of villains that are uniquely his.
Really?
There's lots of villains he's come up against, but they're not necessarily like his villain.
Why do you think the Firestorm has had like the opportunity to get his own villain?
Well, because Firestorm was developed with his own series. They were like, he's a brand new character.
Really?
And he got like 7 issues, and then this thing called the DC Implosion happened, and they had to cancel a bunch of series. But basically, he was like created. So in those issues, it was like, here's how he gets his powers. Here's these characters. They were like basically just making his own little corner for him. And so right off the bat in that first series, a lot of things are introduced. And that then could get expanded on when they do eventually go back to that character. But it's because they were just setting them up. They were like, here's something brand new. We're going to try it, make its own thing. It wasn't like Firestorm debuted in Action Comics and was like sidekicking Superman or anything like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
My brother is now messaging me about this.
Right.
He's really invested in this Brooklyn Nine-Nine thing.
Yeah.
And he sent that there's apparently a country in DZ Comics called Markovia, which is where his kid came from, isn't it?
No, Boyle's kid comes from a real country in Brooklyn.
Oh, is it? Okay, because why is he? There must be some sort of connection in Markovia, though.
No, I don't think there is. I think he's stretching. Boyle's kid comes from a real place in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Markovia is a fictional country in DC, though. It's where Geoforce and Terra are from.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason why he said it. It's got to be connected somehow.
I think he's stretching.
You
hear me, Robin?
I'll update.
Yeah, please.
As we learn.
Please do. Yeah.
All right. Next piece of news.
Nope.
What?
It's not a piece of news.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Get your head
Next question. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Next question.
Sure.
Comes from the most interesting resident.
Andrew Delgado?
That's right. Andrew Delgado.
Sorry, do you want to take that again?
Andrew Delgado.
There you go. Very nice.
What did I say?
I thought Delgado or something.
I don't know. I got 2 of these ciders in me.
I know. You got to slow down, bud. This is a long night of recording.
I know. Fuck. Andrew asks, what are your favorite existing or potential rogues crossovers? Do you think it makes sense for most villains to only focus on one superhero?
Right. So occasionally in a book, you'll see a hero fight a villain that is not quote unquote theirs. Good example is at the end of the New 52 Flash run, there's like a 2 or 3 issue like mini arc where the Flash goes up against the Riddler. That does happen. Or, you take like a villain who's a villain of a particular team or something. They end up going up against the Justice League. That happens a lot. Justice League borrows a lot. Particularly cool instances of this though. Geez. That's kind of interesting. What's a particularly cool instance of this? I don't know that it necessarily counts because the hero is still kind of involved in this, but in the Earth 2 series in the New 52, that was like young versions of those Earth 2 characters like Jay Garrick and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Jay is helping this guy named Khalid get the Helmet of Fate. He's not yet Dr. Fate, but Dr. Fate's mortal enemy, Wotan, is also after it. So it's kind of like Jay is helping. Yeah, well, let me tell you, Wotan ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yeah.
Jay is helping Khalid
DJ?
again. Yes. DJ Khalid. He's helping them against Wotan before he's even Dr. Fate. So, I mean, there's a little bit of like a Flash versus Wotan thing in there. Not a ton, but it's kind of neat to see like additional characters kind of face off. The character that's probably bounced around more than most is something like Solomon Grundy, who began as like the Golden Age arch enemy of Green Lantern.
Also began on a Monday.
Yes, that's true. But he used to fight Alan Scott, Green Lantern. And then kind of became like almost like a Batman rogue for a bit, but he's fought Justice League. He's gone up against all sorts of different characters. That's one. There's a Metal Men arch enemy called Chemo, who's like a giant anthropomorphic vat of toxic chemicals. And Chemo ends up being like a member of the secret society of supervillains in Infinite Crisis, and kind of becomes more of like a general threat than specifically fighting the Metal Men. The way they use Chemo in that is kind of heartbreaking and also interesting, where they basically turn Chemo into just like a weapon. They drop Chemo out of a plane onto the city of Bloodhaven and basically like wipe it out and like irradiate it.
Jesus.
Yeah. Which is, that's it's a pretty big move for like a weird character and stuff like that. I mean, Chemo's kind of neat that way. I don't know that I necessarily have like a particular favorite moment, but it does happen lots where heroes sort of take on, in the Button crossover where Batman and Flash are both involved, there's a whole fight between Batman and Reverse Flash where Batman's getting the piss beaten out of him. That's kind of neat to see, Reverse Flash going up against a not Flash is, pretty terrifying, especially going up against someone with no powers whatsoever. It's pretty terrifying. Yeah.
Does the DC Khaled also not eat pussy?
DJ?
Yeah, DC's.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't think they've ever had to explain that. But yeah, I mean, DJ Khaled is kind of a scumbag.
Yeah. If Smash Mouth has to come out and oppose you, then you know that you're doing something wrong.
You fucked up.
Yeah.
If Smash Mouth is on the right side of history and you aren't, you fucked up. Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Stephen Marion Almagro.
Same voice.
It's very limited in my abilities.
Yeah. Can you do it just in a slightly different region?
Stephen Marion
Almagro. Too offensive. Never mind.
Sorry. I'll do my Japanese voice.
Yeah, there we go. Less offensive.
Stephen Marion Almagro.
That's Italian.
Yeah,
that's 100% Italian. Here we go.
Sorry. I apologize. I'll do my Jamaican voice. Stephen Marion Almagro. Is that better?
We've lost so many followers.
How can you get negative followers?
Yeah. But iTunes actively pushes people away from our podcast.
Oh no, we just were removed from Podbean.
Yeah.
Steven asks, if you guys were villains, to which superheroes rogues gallery would you want to be classified in, and why?
Well, why don't you answer this first? What hero would you want to be like your main antagonist if you were a villain?
Well,
is there a particular hero you could see yourself fighting for a lifetime?
Part of me also wants to have to be I'd like to be the top.
You want to be like the arch enemy?
Not just
one of.
Exactly. So right. I feel like I would need to be within like a really bad rogues gallery.
Right. So that you're better by comparison.
Yeah. Sure. So I feel like also somebody I would enjoy fighting for a very long time. Wonder Woman.
Okay.
Who's both has an awful rogues gallery and
certainly lesser known and fewer sort of main members. Yeah.
Exactly. So I feel like I would stand above in that situation. And as well as I mean Wonder Woman's awesome. She could kick my ass.
Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously she has some recurring villains and
Cheetah, obviously.
and there's lots of context involved in Wonder Woman fights, but there is a comic, I can't remember what the actual issue is, forgive me, but there's a comic where they almost address the fact that she doesn't really have a rogues gallery. She says something like, there's a reason my list of villains isn't as long as Clark's or Bruce's or even Barry's. It's because when they, like, she says something to the effect of like, when they fight me, I end it. She's basically saying like, I've killed a bunch of my enemies, or like put them down permanently.
I just feel like putting me side by side like Mouse Man and like Egg Foo. I feel like I would.
Yeah, well, let's not get into Egg Foo. Egg Foo might be the most racist character ever.
Wow, and that's saying something.
Because Egg Foo was like this giant egg with a Fu Manchu mustache. This is a Golden Age villain of Wonder Woman's. Yeah. And the mustache was like prehensile, like could grab things, and had it had like a stereotypical Asian accent. And you say accent in a comic book? How do you know? And it's because they replaced all the R's with L's and all the L's with R's for all of Egg Foo's dialogue. It was very like, it's very bad. There are more modern versions of Egg Foo that do not do that, but it's still a weird, underused kind of like, that's like just a deep cut if you want to prove that you've read something, from Wonder Woman's back history.
I mean, it's no Crimson Centipede, but
wow. I mean, but some of Wonder Woman's relatively recurring one, there's Cheetah, Dr. Psycho, Dr. Poison, Dr. Cyber, lots of doctors, Ares.
Ooh, ASL.
Ares, obviously. Silver Swan. Like there are recurring Wonder Woman villains. Yeah. And in modern era, Grail, who is both half Amazon and also the daughter of Darkseid. Like there are recurring Wonder Woman villains, but certainly way, way, way fewer than some of those other heroes.
Absolutely. So the cream rises to the top, but what about you?
It's just sink right to the bottom. I would be like a flamingo class villain in Batman's. No. Who's a hero I want to go up against? Maybe like Green Lantern or something like that. I'd be interested in being like a Green Lantern rogue, but I don't want to be another Lantern. I like in the Silver Age, Green Lantern had way more villains that were not lanterns or didn't have, because that wasn't a thing. Like the whole idea of like the 7 Lantern Corps is a very modern idea. And the comics really, I might argue, focus too much on that now. But, there are characters
considering you have so much space to deal with.
There are characters like Sonar, Dr. Polaris, Goldface.
Oh my God, Goldface is a real character?
Yeah, Goldface. Well, not Golden Face.
Oh, okay.
Threat Level Midnight. But Goldface actually was also on The Flash. They used that character in an episode. Yeah. But, like Green Lantern had lots of villains that weren't that. Or even in the 90s, like Mongol, Cyborg, Superman kind of almost crossed over to being Green Lantern villains because they're the ones that destroyed Coast City, from being more like Superman villains. So
would you be like an extraterrestrial?
I think I would, but sort of mid-tier kind of Green Lantern villain. I think I'd be interested in being in that. Yeah. I think I would be extraterrestrial. I'd be from like a different space sector.
That's cool.
Or something, yeah.
Like Sector 2814.
Yeah, like 2812. Just a couple of sectors over, yeah. Like a noisy neighbor down the street.
Could actually sing.
2814.
God, what other DC podcast makes us references to Les Mis?
Les Mis, chorus line.
Yeah. Yeah, don't make me start bringing
Speaking of which, did you see that fucking Cats trailer?
Okay, we're going to get into that.
Okay, that's sorry. It's going to haunt my nightmares.
We got to get into it later. Yeah.
Sorry.
Just fucking... We'll get into it.
I have bad memories of watching it.
Were you all alone in the mood? Well, we're leaving Facebook. We're heading on over to Twitter.
Twitter!
Jesus. What happened?
Oh, God. I just threw up a scorpion.
Oh, it should have been like.
Oh. Oh, I'm too creeped out. It's like, no, I take it back. I don't like that.
I don't want to like.
No, not
I don't want
like
to play this game.
Not like this.
Well, first question on Twitter comes from the son of Paul, James Paulson.
Jimmy Paul's boy.
The pallbearer.
Oh, one day.
I mean, potentially, he could die first. James,
Great drop.
what are some villains that don't fit into their current gallery quite well, but would make amazing additions to another one?
Sure. Well, I mean, just even in terms of ones that you know, maybe primarily from sort of Flash or Batman, can you think of a villain where you're like, oh, I actually think they would be a better fit with someone else? Is there one where you're like, why are you a villain for this person?
Like ventriloquist?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of where you think they would fit better, or do you just think they don't fit with Batman?
I just don't think they fit with Batman.
And why is that?
Well, because it feels like there's nothing that the ventriloquist specifically brings that like competes against Batman.
Right. I think I think for me, at least that original version of ventriloquist, the Arnold Wexler one, he fits because he's just like another guy with like a sort of debilitating mental illness, like a lot of Batman's stable.
They're going to say like Batman.
Well, and like Batman, frankly. Yes, precisely. But there was a second version of the ventriloquist called Peyton Riley, female version, who actually had like telekinesis. So she could actually move the dummy. Like she could ventriloquize basically via telekinesis. And that version to me doesn't feel as much like a Batman. I would actually maybe put her more like a Batwoman villain.
Yeah.
Batwoman tends, and that's not because she's a woman, but Batwoman tends to fight more sort of like creepy, almost like more magic, more occult kind of things. And even though telekinesis is still like a science power, she, like Peyton Riley, like she looked like the girl from The Ring. She looked like Samara,
really?
like had that kind of creepy horror kind of look, and the fact that she can actually make the dolls move and stuff, like feels like maybe it fits a bit more with Batwoman in that like realm of horror or that kind of thing. I think that makes sense to me. Some people say that the Rogues don't necessarily fit with the Flash because they are so underpowered. They're a bunch of people with no powers who use technology, and the Flash has like the power of the full Speed Force. But I think it's more about their personalities, right? Like the Rogues are a group of villains: Captain Cold, Heatwave, Weather Wizard, Trickster, Golden Glider, Mirror Master, Top. They're basically a group of villains who decide they just like robbing things. They like being robbers, and they basically agree not to kill, and they just want the next big score. Like they're not trying, they never try to take over the world. They're never trying to like run City Hall. They just want to like rob a bank and get away with it. So the Flash, I won't say tolerates, but basically like he kind of appreciates that they don't kill. And so I don't think brings the full weight of his power to bear against them.
That makes sense.
In that way, it almost fits. Let's see. Egg Fu definitely doesn't fit with Wonder Woman.
No.
The Golden Age for Wonder Woman's a weird time, though, frankly. Let's see. One that really doesn't fit.
Magpie?
I suppose so.
I find that a lot of Superman's villains don't necessarily, like, especially the lower level ones.
Sure. Like, is there anyone in particular that you're thinking of? Or?
I just think like a lot of the time it's, especially when he's just fighting like crime bosses and things like that.
Sure. Yeah.
I always think that or like Bloodthirst.
Oh God, we're picking up like real like low tier kind of characters here. Yeah. I mean, the ones that I do think work. I mean, Luthor, obviously, Parasite. Definitely. I think actually Toyman feels like he shouldn't be a Superman.
Do you know who's a good one? Livewire.
Livewire's great.
But doesn't make sense for Superman, I think.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, Livewire is another one of those characters who, like Harley Quinn, was created for the animated series first and then moved to comics.
I just think that, especially with like those abilities, it doesn't really have that much of an effect on Superman.
I think it's that you can like electrically, not fully subdue, but like you can kind of harm Superman with that. But also she can go intangible. She can just become electricity, which means he can't just punch her. And I think that does kind of make a good adversary for Superman in the way that, like, in the current comics, the Red Cloud is a pretty decent adversary because you can't punch someone in, like, a gaseous form.
I just remember, like, in Supergirl, they brought her in the first season, and she very easily was dealt with. Like,
she's in the crossover episode with Flash, right?
I think so, yes.
It's her and Silver Banshee, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Toyman is the real, like, sore thumb in the Superman rogues.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, he's just a guy with sort of silly tech, but he's just like an inventor. Like, it's not like the Joker where he's like maniacal and using toys, so it's really scary. He's just like... he's almost got like a stunted, like Arrested Development kind of thing going on. Like Toyman the Toyman they did in the animated series is slightly more creepy, but in general, Toyman doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. Talking Superman, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I don't like that one. I like the sort of the not villain second Toyman that I think was his name, Hiro Okamura or whatever, who kind of becomes like a technological assistant to Superman, can help him in the way Batman can help him when things need a particular kind of technology or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that version of a Toyman, but the villain one, Winslow Schott, I don't love.
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
I don't know who I think they would fit better with, though.
No. Oh. Shazam?
Well, I mean, maybe in a certain way, because especially now Shazam is exploring these like 7 magic realms, and one is called like the Fun Lands. Like, there's all these kind of weird things about like.
But I feel like there's a connection to childhood. There's something like that.
I see where you're going with that. And actually, I mean, Shazam villains, there is a bunch of kind of silly ones. Toyman probably would fit. That's actually that's a good one. Yeah.
Nice. Next question comes from our favorite sexy space texter, Cosmic DM.
Sliding right in.
Sliding in. Feeling it good. Cosmic asks, why does there seem to be such a big drop-off of rogues galleries after Batman and Flash? Also, when does a villain pass from being in a certain hero's gallery to being in a Justice League villain?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Right. So, I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, like Batman, we could probably name like 30 or more Batman villains. You know, that doesn't mean they're all major players, but the fact that we can name them at all is pretty indicative of something. Even the Flash, I bet you could name like 20 Flash villains, even just from having watched the show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, they might just be Firestorm villains.
There's some of them are in there. You know, there is a bit of a drop off, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's a complete drop off in number, but definitely a drop off in like recognition or popularity.
Yeah.
You know, even Superman villains, you know, once you get past like a couple of them, you know, like Brainiac, Zod, Luthor, you know, then you start going to like Parasite, Toyman, Mongol, Cyborg Superman. You still like keep going, you know, you keep going down a little bit, and then Mr. Mix's Pitlick, things like that. Like you're getting more and more maybe out of the popular sphere, out of like the zeitgeist a little bit. The Green Lantern, you know, I think unless you know Green Lantern, you're unlikely to be able to name more than Sinestro.
Yeah, that's kind of my limitation.
Again, you could maybe throw Mongol in there, but you know, modern ones, you get, Atrocitus, you know, you get like the whole Sinestro core.
Totally.
You get Parallax, you get all of these things, but like the old ones like Dr. Polaris, Sonar, Goldface, Evil Star, those are ones that like most people I would say don't know. Aquaman, definitely like I mean, you could basically just like, is it at all marine related? And you could just take a profession and that was a villain, like fisherman, scavenger. Like there's a bunch of really like kind of crappy Aquaman ones, but I think for the most part, they're just not popular. Why is that the case? I mean, part of that is just, it's the legacy thing. You know, not only has Batman been around for 80 years, but Batman has maybe had more, it has appeared in more issues of more comics. I would probably say he's appeared in more issues of more comics than Superman has. So I'm sure someone can verify this or contradict it. But, you know, between Batman and Detective Comics, and then there's like Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, Shadow of the Bat, Batman and the Outsiders, Justice League of America, basically all
There's
of the series.
so much Batman.
And then guest appearances and limited series and all these things. There is so much Batman that, plus a TV show in the 60s, an animated show in the 90s, you know, you got 4 movies before the year 2000, and then 8 or 7 or 6 or 7 more appearances since then, between the Dark Knight and then the DCEU and lots of animated films. There's so much exposure to Batman and multiple series that you get to, you know, dig up these old villains, give them a bit more exposure. Get like, you know, now that The Flash has been on TV for as long as it has, you know, some of those characters that I think if we were doing this podcast 6 years ago, I would have even thrown like Heatwave, like a pretty major like Flash rug. I would have been like, he's not that popular, but Heatwave has been a series regular on Legends of Tomorrow for 5 years.
That's true.
You know, like, part of it is just exposure, I think. The weird little wrinkle in that theory is Superman. Because even though Batman's been around a lot, there's still been a lot of Superman. But for some reason, you know, the movies only ever go back to Luthor and Zod, basically. Because Superman 3, I think, was supposed to have Brainiac, and then they shied away from it. Superman 4 invented a villain, the Nuclear Man, but he didn't have to be in there. Man of Steel did Zod again. Batman v Superman did Luthor again. And Doomsday, but you know what I mean? Like, whereas the Batman movies, there was like a conscious effort of like, who haven't we used?
Yeah.
You know, Joker, then Penguin and Catwoman, we go all the way through. And then even crossing over to the Nolanverse, the first one was Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul, 2 villains we haven't used. Talia al Ghul makes it into Dark Knight Rises. Like, there's a conscious sort of effort there that there doesn't seem to be with Superman.
It's true.
I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. But again, it's, you know, Superman games are famously bad. But we have the Arkham games for Batman that are full of villains.
So what's with the drop off?
I think it's that there are maybe just as many, or not just as many, but like there is a good number of Superman villains. We just don't know them unless you are reading the comics. They're just not popular. I guess is the point I'm making. You know, some heroes have legitimately smaller rogues galleries. Hawkman, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter. They have legitimately smaller, legitimately smaller rogues galleries. But, you know, Superman, Green Lantern, I mean, Firestorm, frankly, you know, there are other ones that have decent sized ones and we just don't know them. And I think that's more what the thing is than anything.
Do you think that a hero is only as good as their villain?
No, because I would say like Green Arrow is a terrific hero. Very like, he's got a real kind of solid place carved out in the DC universe. And it's not overly dependent on his villains. You know, like some of his, like Count Vertigo or Brick or, you know, like, you know, Dark Archer, like all of these kind of things are secondary. Green Arrow is just a great villain, a great hero rather, because he's so street level. Like it could just be like he busts a drug dealer every issue. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the context a little bit. You know, Superman, there's a thing too where it's like he's visiting different alien worlds, but he's only going there once. So he faces a villain there and you never see him again. There's a lot of that too.
So what about the second part of this question? When does a villain pass from being in a certain hero's gallery to being a Justice League villain?
I don't know that there's like a hard and fast sort of rule for it, but I guess it's sort of when you feel that are there appearances more frequent in the team book than in the solo book, or has their motive changed? Did it, from
more worldly?
For example, Deathstroke starts as a Teen Titans villain. He's after the Titans. He's after Nightwing. He's after Robin.
Yeah.
And he's after the Titans. He fights them. He tries to take them down. But then you fast forward, 20 years, and he's sort of a mercenary for hire, part of the secret society of superheroes. He's broadened his scope. His motivation is different. He's just out to make a buck any way he can, and he's aligned himself with people with a broader aspiration.
Been there.
So he becomes more of a Justice League villain, like in Identity Crisis, in Infinite Crisis, in things like that. And then it swings back. Like, he's been way more of a Teen Titans villain in recent years than he has been in a long time. So, I think it's about those two things. Where physically are they making the most appearances in the comics, but also, like, what is their goal? Are they fighting the Justice League because the person he's after is there? Or is he fighting the Justice League because now his ambitions are greater? It takes the Justice League to stop them as opposed to a single hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Andre Smith.
Ooh, Andre Smith, welcome.
Who asks, when someone takes up the mantle of a hero, Dick becoming Batman, Wally becoming the Flash,
right,
do they inherit their predecessor's rogues gallery, or do they usually get their own?
Well, I mean, in those two specific instances, the general answer is they inherit it, with a couple of notable exceptions. So, Wally, as the Flash, generally fights a bunch of Flash's villains.
Yeah.
The Rogues and Abracadabra and, all those folk. Got a few new ones in that era, like Tar Pit and that, but Tar Pit is a pretty general Flash rogue. Barry fights Tar Pit now too. But the one place that did distinguish Wally, while he was also fighting Grodd and these other characters, was he got his own Reverse Flash. So he inherits it in that there's a Reverse Flash, but his wasn't Eobard. His was Hunter Zolomon. And the origin and everything is very tied to Wally as a character. So Hunter Zolomon, Zoom, was Wally's Reverse Flash, whereas Eobard Thawne was Barry's Reverse Flash. And that was new and different. And Zolomon's powers were different from Thawne's. He could sort of manipulate time as opposed to moving quickly through space. Which, if you're a physicist, it's two sides of the same coin, but, that was the comic book distinction, right? For Dick as Batman, he's fighting Batman villains, basically. Does Blockbuster, would Blockbuster show up? Would he fight him? Probably. But he's fighting villains in Gotham. So he's still going up against the Riddler. The Riddler's still there. Riddler didn't die when Batman disappeared. Bane didn't. So yeah, I mean, he inherits those villains. I can give the opposite example though, which is in the New 52 when Bruce quote unquote died. Jim Gordon took over as Batman, and that arc, Super Heavy, Gordon basically had his own adversaries. They were like brand new just for him, and he wasn't also fighting Two-Face. I mean, that was a very short run of him as Batman too, so he never got the chance to grow into that, but he fought, sort of like childlike, sort of bioelectrical creature called Precious. And then he also fought Mr. Bloom, who basically, could sort of grow these sort of tendrils, almost like a tree or something like that, but he was basically giving superpowers to ordinary citizens. So, but you could make the argument that those were brand new rogues for the Jim Gordon Batman. And if he had continued on, maybe we would have seen even more. But, yeah, I mean, I guess there's examples of both, but as a rule, I think you inherit the villains because they don't also disappear, right? Like, not everyone is like, we're all retiring at once. We agreed. Someone still has to face them. It makes sense for it to be the same mantle, right? That's also the point of taking up a mantle and not just being your own new character, is that the fight continues. The same fight continues. Someone else is doing it, though. You know?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Well, with that, next question is from Talking Superman, who asks, "What?"
He's gonna yell at me about Toyman.
Yeah, this just in. What do you think is the key to creating a new villain for a long-lasting hero character that cements itself in a rogues gallery?
Right. Well, what do you think makes some of like the iconic villains that you know iconic?
I think there's there's just a few things. One is that they need to have a balance to whatever the hero's abilities are. I think that's important.
Right. Like you just mean powers or abilities.
Abilities, yeah. Or like whether it's psychosomatic or like strength wise, or right. Like even if it's like the Joker and Batman, it's very balanced in that they're both sort of psychotic on two separate sides of the coin.
Sure.
But in a very similar sort of way with the same sort of determination.
They're also kind of both genius scientists.
Yeah.
They both have demonstrated like engineering and chemistry and all those kind of things.
For sure. I think another one is that they need to have I think that it's important that they have a slightly rich backstory that's worth going back to, and something that will, that their motivation for going after this specific hero.
Right.
I think if it's just like, I got these powers and I want to use them for bad, it's not enough of a reason to go back to them.
Sure.
I think that's another really important thing. And then having the right motivation, like beyond just like, I need to stop this person. Like they actually, what their end goal is something that seems slightly achievable, but also is interesting in some sort of way, instead of just like world domination.
Right.
Like if you look at Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor hates Superman because without Superman, he feels like he would be the one who's the sort of center of all this adoration, right?
Yeah, the hero of Metropolis.
Yes, and so even though that's obviously not the case, it's the thing that motivates him to stopping him, and he believes that he's doing this for the greater good when it's really necessarily for himself. So there's a lot of layers to that. I think that obviously is something that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think all the things you said there are exactly it. You know, I think the ones that are the strongest are the ones that are some version of like personal vendetta, where it is like, you know, the Batman Joker thing, obviously very iconic, but Batman will never kill the Joker. It's a line he won't cross no matter how awful the Joker is. And the Joker knows that. And the Joker also doesn't want the game to end. Like the Joker, it's never the Joker's plan to finish it.
No.
It's only to push it. Right? So, which is, I mean, that literally makes their fight ongoing and like never ending. But then also, you know, the order chaos, like they do represent basically like complete opposite ideals, right? Same thing with like Luthor and Superman. Luthor has like a vendetta against Superman, who's like the embodiment of humility. And like a being who is infinitely powerful, who chooses to live as a meek, as not even like an alpha male human, right? Chooses to live very sort of meekly and modestly. That's incomprehensible to a megalomaniac like Luthor, right?
Yeah.
Black Manta has a blood vendetta against Aquaman. He just will not stop until he kills Aquaman. Sinestro and Hal. Sinestro's betrayed by Hal. Sinestro believes they both have the same mission, but Hal's just not willing to go far enough. So they think, you know, they almost have like a professional kind of courtesy between them, but they have differing approaches. Flash and Reverse Flash has obviously become a much more personal vendetta since Flash Rebirth in 2009, where Barry's mom got killed. But you know, that's Eobard hates the Flash. Why? Because he went to the Flash Museum and saw that he would be a villain and he couldn't be the Flash. It's not like Barry actually did anything to him, but it's this thing where he's like, I saw my destiny. I have to hate you. I hate you because I hate you. Like, and those are the ones that I think have the most meat to them. You know, the Cheetah and Wonder Woman thing too, you know, there's lots of that, I think. And those tend to be the ones that really, really stick.
Yeah.
And maybe part of the thing, going back to a previous question, why Batman has such a rich gallery of that is that so many of those villains do that. Like, it's not just the archenemy, but like the Penguin. So much of that story is now wrapped up in the history of the Cobblepots and the Waynes and entitlement in the sort of upper echelons of the city. Harvey Dent, but feels, betrayed or set up by Gordon and Batman when they try to take on crime. The Riddler tries to test his mind, his intellect against Bruce's famous, intellect and strategy. The Scarecrow, wants to be the master of fear, but Batman embodies fear in Gotham. They all have like a very particular like mirror that they hold up to Batman. And I think that's why so many more of them are engaging and long lasting.
I also think that
some other heroes' villains where they might have like an arch enemy and then just a bunch of crooks.
I think that's why it adds to the reasoning why Batman is so prevalent, is that because he doesn't have any abilities and has so many character flaws, he reflects the most human qualities. And so there's so many things. That's why he has such a great rogue galleries, is that so many of his villains reflect sort of the extreme sides of what general people have, right?
Or also what he could become.
Yeah.
If he...
Like the Penguin is sort of the rich side of him, right?
That's like the apathetic socialite.
The Joker is leaning into his like insanity.
Harvey has a perverted sense of justice.
Yes.
All of those characters are like, at any moment, Batman could become them.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think you're right. And I think a lot of other heroes don't necessarily have that richness in their rogues galleries. They have maybe one or two that kind of do that, and then a bunch of just like villains, just like, oh, you stopped me from robbing another bank, Hawkman. Like, I'm Monocle. And then he's like, ha! And he like runs away. Like, there's a reason we never talk about Monocle.
And I think that's also partly, to do how many comics there are of him. But
yes, definitely.
I think that it's also a reflection on like, we've seen so many of the layers are within Batman. Yeah. There's a lot more to pull from.
Even that new backstory for Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is like, what if Bruce had an opportunity to keep his parents alive? Would he go to the same extreme as Freeze? Maybe. If his parents were just on life support instead of being dead, would Bruce become like Freeze?
Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those sort of like Funhouse mirror version things of Batman and his villains.
Totally. I love this next question.
Sure, let's do it.
Coming from Batzam.
Batzam!
It's just such a scary idea that Batman and Shazam.
Oh yeah. If Bruce got
seems terrifying.
Powers, yeah.
Are there any villains who have surprising day jobs? While they're not causing crime, etc.
Right. Villains and day jobs.
Obviously the first one that comes to mind for me is, especially due to the TV show, is Riddler.
Oh, like on Gotham where he starts as a CSI. Yeah. That's not necessarily from the comics, but yes, I think it's that was a really smart choice they made on that show.
Totally.
Putting him in a position where he can demonstrate his problem solving and his intellect, but also kind of giving him the resources to like cover up and hide crime. Like he knows what they look for to solve crimes, and so he can.
And he's also the one that gives that information, right? So
it was a really good position to put him in. The Penguin's day job, technically, like his on the books day job, is he's like basically in real estate, and he like runs a nightclub, which is kind of funny that he's The Iceberg Lounge is a weird thing. Sometimes it's depicted as like a hideout for villains, and sometimes it's like all of the like wealthiest people in Gotham come here to rub shoulders with Oswald Cobblepot. It's like, it's a really
depends on the
writer a little bit, but that's kind of, he basically runs a nightclub.
It's like Lucifer.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. Let's see. Day jobs. One of the current Superman comics, Red Cloud, also works for the Daily Planet. as a reporter, as sort of like a gossip columnist.
Black Manta.
Manta doesn't have a day job because his blood vendetta is all consuming. But when Aquaman has been quote unquote dead or actually dead, he went and became like a fishmonger. He was like, time for a normal life. My job's done. And he was a fishmonger for a while. And then when he found out that Aquaman was alive, he immediately like gutted everyone near him and put the helmet back on and walked into the sea.
So who has a surprising day job?
Dr. Polaris, a Green Lantern enemy. He was a professor, but Dr. Polaris is like an alternate personality, an alternate evil personality inside him, with basically like magnetism powers. The day job thing is funny because the more I think about it, a lot of these villains don't have one.
Full-time villains.
They're full-time villains, or, you know, when they're not being a villain, they just like hide in their apartment. Or, you know, like Leonard Snart doesn't also work at like the Tasty Freeze. That
would be amazing.
He's just Captain Cold.
Yeah.
But if he worked anywhere,
it would be a Tasty
ice cream place. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like Heatwave is painting people's porches when he's not. You know,
I want one of them to like sell insurance.
That's actually a very funny question because I'm really struggling, especially when you get, you know, Superman's villains. So many of them are like interdimensional or they're alien warlords or whatever. It's like that's their job.
Scientist, real estate.
I mean, Lex's day job is confusing only in that LexCorp has tendrils in so many industries, and he's such a polymath that it's like military, like weapons and things like that. It's also like medicine. LexCorp has a whole like sort of medical genetics research wing. They do real estate development, you know, like subsidized housing and things like that. Like LexCorp has its hands in a lot of things. I guess Black Mask, Janus Industries, I think is cosmetics.
Oh yeah.
Which is a little bit funny. So I think his on the books business is cosmetics, and his off the books thing is like organized crime, criminal empire, like weapons and drug trafficking. That's a very funny question. That has pointed out that many of these villains actually don't have day jobs. That's very interesting, actually.
Yeah,
it's not a thing I would have thought of. Good question.
All right, next question comes from EC. It's so we see.
Oh my goodness.
That's all I got.
What does EC ask?
AEC is
no, that's someone else's.
I'm only so clever. EC asks, many DC characters have a tragic backstory, mental illness or disability. What are your thoughts on this being used as a common prompt for villains as opposed to heroes? And what impact do you think that has for how mental illness and disabilities are viewed in real life?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's obviously not helpful to only portray mental illness as a road to villainy.
You think? Yeah.
That's problematic.
Yeah, probably. There's some issues with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that comes from, it's like, if you're writing in the 60s or 70s, it's like, what would make someone put on a colorful costume and like hold up a bank?
They must be crazy!
You know, I think it's like a very sort of lazy, easy, well, not even just lazy, but it's like, I also have to wrap this story up in this issue, because that's how they were writing things back then. So I think it was just like, mental illness, or like, oh, they snapped, they had one bad day, you know, like, they do that kind of shit. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not helpful, but I think what you get in some stories now is maybe the reason that we see more and more villains, not even redeemed, but sort of were inching their way into anti-heroism, or, you know, Harley, Poison Ivy, Clayface, even Two-Face, frankly, like lots of villains inch their way, Sinestro, Black Adam. The reason that they do that is because they're trying to make their villainy more nuanced. That they're not just evil necessarily, and they're not just crazy. And crazy does not equal evil. that there's motivate. They're trying to accomplish a specific goal. I think that's the way they address it now, where instead of it just being like they have a mental illness, ergo they are now a villain. Now it's like, no. Like, what are you trying to achieve? So in, Poison Ivy has a history of villainy, but she's trying to achieve this sort of goal of environmental protection and things like that. But ultimately, when called upon, during No Man's Land, Ivy provided a safe haven for like orphans and stuff like that. Like she does the right thing. Like her goal of environmental protection does not include killing children, Harley, obviously portrayed as insane and murderous, but then that's now wrapped up in sort of like levels of like abuse and control and things like that. And as she's broken free of that, she's been less villainous, right? As we've moved her away from the Joker,
yeah,
there's more to like about her and more to redeem in her.
Totally.
So I think that's maybe how they address it now is trying to, Black Adam wants to, he sees himself in the way that Sinestro kind of sees himself. He sees himself as like, if I am in absolute control, I can provide the best possible living conditions for my people. So he's stripping them of democracy. He's a vicious foe when you cross him, but all he wants is to be left alone and to rule Kandak his way. Like you're tempering it so it's not just pure evil anymore. And I think that's how they try to address it. So it's not just these people are crazy or these people have issues, ergo put them in prison.
Yeah. I wish that they used disabilities as a characteristic within heroes more often than not.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's true. Heroes are portrayed with quote unquote flaws, but it's very seldom portrayed as like something to be taken more seriously.
Like there's Oracle,
Barry's just like, I'm always late. But like, how often do we say like, no, Barry, like you have some like issues to work through about like you are trying to do too much. You like, there's an actual like almost obsessive compulsive nature to Barry where it's like, this isn't all on you. You can seek help.
Yeah.
And I think that's maybe why people were so disappointed with Heroes in Crisis, because we were sort of promised an idea of like, where do the heroes go to seek this help?
Yeah.
With trauma or PTSD or, the things they see or the things they have to do. And instead it just became this like kind of stupid murder mystery. It didn't have to be. It could have just been those confessionals for 9 issues. And that would have been like, they would have won all the awards. It would have been like, holy shit, well done. And I think that's maybe part of where that disappointment comes from, is that we almost got what you would have wanted, that we see a bit more of those sort of,
but even more so, like I would love to see heroes with like maybe a physical or a mental disability.
Yeah.
Like, beyond like Ben Affleck suddenly becoming a really good like shooter, but
I see what you're saying. Like explicitly, yeah. I mean, maybe part of it is that writers don't. In the way that if you're maybe black characters should be written by someone black, so there's someone with the actual experience to put. Maybe it's that the comic industry needs to be more open to people with disabilities to tell those stories.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you get like just a very one note, one perspective, non-informed version of what that is. Maybe we need, someone with sort of high level autism to write an autistic superhero. So we get a more authentic version of what that is, other than just like, they count everything you drop or like whatever the thing is,
Well, did you see that movie with Ben Affleck?
That's The Accountant.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I actually haven't, but I think you told me about it before. Yeah.
Oof. All right. With that, the Dr. 2C podcast will be back after this quick break. This episode of the Dr. DC podcast is brought to you by the Great Lakes. They sent us some products to try, and they are amazing. When I am flying from issues with villains to other issues with villains, Oh, geez. Great Lakes shouldn't have had so many signers before he went on this ad. I mean,
You're yelling a lot more than the last time you were here, Great Lakes.
Great Lakes has had a long day. And maybe he winded down with some cider.
Is there any sort of grooming practice that helps you unwind after such a long day?
Oh, absolutely. Flying through the sky gives me some pretty tangled beard.
Yeah, some pretty tangled beard hair. What would you use for that?
Well, Great Lakes has some different scents with their own beard oil.
Okay.
Such as Your Love, Trusty Woods, and Clear Creek Coffee.
Nice.
Apply some after a shower to nourish your beard. Use the hand-relic boar bristle brush to spread it evenly through the beard. Stimulate your skin underneath.
I see. I think you're recording much closer to the mic this time. I thought you were like a much quieter, more distant sort of. You've got great projection when we're actually in person.
They also have beard balm. Different scents with that, similar. You also have a Your Love, Trusty Woods, and Clear Creek Coffee. Made from beeswax and lanolin. Protects your beard from nature's harsh extremes, like 10,000 feet above the ground.
Wow.
Great Lakes is meant to be easy and ready to use, rain or shine. All their products are purposefully designed and environmentally responsible, handmade in evil Canada.
What do you mean evil? Most of you is in Canada.
Yes, but we also did science experiments and created characters like Wolverine.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, fair enough.
Ready for adventure wherever one may find themselves, like the dark woods of Canada's Green Shield.
Is one of your enemies Alkali Lake then?
Don't speak of alkaline, man.
Well, that's where Weapon X is.
That's right. Spooky.
So quiet. You're so far away. Come back.
And for your lucky listeners, you get 10% off! And on Great Lakes Grooming's regular price products, just by going to www.greatlakesgrooming.com.
Only 2 W's?
www.nevergetoveryou. And don't forget to use the promo code DRDC Podcast. That's right. www.greatlakesgrooming.com. Use the promo code DRDC Podcast.
Thank you for coming all the way down to do this ad again, Great Lakes.
Now Great Lakes away! And we're back!
Oh, you're going to stay for the episode?
Great Lakes will stay!
Wow. Strap in.
Now we're going to Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram. Take some questions and answer them. Oh, you're going to do this for the whole time, Great Lakes?
The first question comes from the real Josh Gill.
Gill.
Oh, sexy Gill.
You feel that way about him as well?
Yes, he makes me want to fly in the sky.
Great Lakes, do you know when Richard's going to be back?
I murdered him.
Oh my God. He said he was just going out for cigarettes.
He did, and then I slit his throat and drank his blood.
What a dark turn for this character.
I made a necklace from his intestines.
Wow. What did Josh ask?
Nothing because he's dead too.
Oh my god. This is the darkest timeline.
No, I'm coming for you! Oh my god, I just woke up. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Did you have like a real weird bad dream? You remember when you did that ad?
I don't know. How could it be bad if I'm this hard? I don't know.
Maybe we should go to Instagram.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, the real Josh Gill. Sexy Gill.
Gil.
He asked, who is the biggest hero without an established rogues gallery?
I mean, that's tough because now we're going to like rank like who's a bigger hero than whom. But I mean, Elongated Man is up there. That's a hero with a pretty decent history and a decent following that doesn't really have villains of his own, particularly. You know, he's come up against Felix Faust and Dr. Light and characters like that, but those mostly recent comics, and those are characters that are not written for him. They're villains that already existed that, you know, got wrapped up into stories involving Elongated Man. I think he's definitely up there. People are going to fight me a little bit on this, but Black Canary, I mean, has some villains that are sort of Black Canary villains, but again, it's like, you know, Lady Shiva is, you know, she's been in she was in Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighters. She's been in The Question. She's been in Batman.
Yeah.
You know, Black Canary and her maybe have a more interesting rivalry than some of those other ones, but does she belong to Black Canary? Because even in that context, it's usually her and the Birds of Prey. It's not even just solo Black Canary. I'd say Black Canary is a pretty big one without like a really established sort of group of villains. You know, Black Canary has had comics and has fought lots of people, and in Justice League, she's fought lots of villains, and, you know, there are some rivalries and things in there, but I don't know that she's really got what I would call a rogues gallery, particularly. She's a pretty big one. Maybe the biggest, if we're sort of going by that measure. But those are the two that come to mind first. Some don't necessarily have like a big gallery of villains, but have like, they got like one, you know, the Atom, his main like arch enemy for a long time was Kronos, the time thief. And then it's like, and who are other Atom villains? And you go, who was he fighting in like Sword of the Atom or like, like these other series? Or, you know, there was lots of Atom and Hawkman team ups. So they're fighting like maybe mostly Hawkman villains like Gentleman Ghost or things like that. I think the Atom is probably up there too. Doesn't really necessarily have like a gallery. Maybe has a couple of villains, but otherwise they're sort of one-offs and things like that. Those are probably the biggest ones, I would say. Other ones, it's not necessarily huge galleries, but they've got you know, Martian Manhunter has, the White Martians and Ma'alafa'ak and Despero, a Human Flame further down that list. Yeah, Aquaman has, you know, Manta, Ocean Master. Now he's got, you know, like Coram Wrath or King Shark for a bit, and like all these kind of things. Like some of them have smaller galleries, but those characters I named, Elongated Man, the Atom, and Black Canary, are probably the biggest ones that really, I think you'd be hard pressed to call it a gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that it specifically belonged to them. Yeah.
All right, let's move on then.
Yeah.
Well, this next resident.
Okay.
I gotta ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you got a car?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Do you ever have any issues with it?
Yeah, I mean, I could use a little bit of work.
Oh, yeah, like what kind of thing?
I think I want to get some nice like rims or something.
Oh, if you want some nice rims, you go to this guy.
Yeah.
He'll turn them into ice blocks.
Oh my God, blocks of ice.
That's right.
Is it the Iceman Custom?
That's right. It's Iceman Custom.
The Iceman Customs.
Do you maybe have some holes in your tires? Don't worry. You can go to this guy. He'll put them on blocks of ice.
He'll turn them into blocks of ice.
That's right.
Yeah. It's a specialty.
Yeah.
It's just replacing whatever you bring him with blocks of ice.
Oh, you having issues with the alternator? Don't worry. He'll turn that into a block of ice.
Amazing. What does the Iceman Customs have?
If you were superheroes, draft 5 villains that would be members of your rogues gallery and why you think they'd be a good match with you.
Right. I mean, I guess without getting into what sort of powers we would have, maybe just based off sort of our personalities, what we think would be psychological weaknesses or things like that. Do you have an idea of like villains you think you would go up against?
Is there a character named like Uncle Jerry?
No. We're not going. No.
He was definitely a villain.
No. I mean, yes, but like, I don't want to talk about it.
Are you saying he did a good job?
No.
Something that was
of course
good?
I'm not saying that.
I mean, he was talented.
Jesus God. What the fuck, man? So Dr. Light, I'm actually going to suggest for you because Dr. Light was retconned into being like the most insane kind of sexual predator. So you get Dr. Arthur Light.
Sounds like we would team up, right, boys?
No. You get Dr. Light.
Okay.
Who would I get? I think, I mean, I really dislike being around people. So what's a bigger nightmare than,
Oh, sweet. I'm glad we do this podcast every week.
oh, I fucking hate this. What's a bigger nightmare for me than someone that could turn into multiple people? So multiplex. I'll take multiplex, I think.
Multiplex.
Do you have another one?
I think Aquaman would be my villain.
Well, yeah, because you don't like
Deep underwater.
the deep water. Yeah, definitely. That's. I mean, he's maybe Ocean Master because he's already a villain instead of fighting a hero.
I mean, think about the source here.
Right. Oh, so you're the villain?
Yeah. Well, depending on their perspective.
Sure. Right. Okay. So I
some of us think that we're the hero.
I bet you do. Right. Let's see. What else do would I have a hard time with? I mean, maybe Sports Master because I am not athletic. So going up against someone whose thing is their athleticism would be a problem. So yeah, multiplex Sports Master.
I think Static Shock because I deal with so much production and Static is there.
He would ruin all your equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely a villain now. You just keep fighting heroes.
Yeah. Well.
You're just a villain that wants to produce a podcast. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to take, Count Vertigo because like what a douchey power is making you like queasy, making you fall over. That's a real dick move. So I'm going to take Count Vertigo. Plus he's a fascist. So
yeah. Chris Hansen, that would be
DC.
I'm sure he spent a lot of time in Washington.
Can't wait for the episode where Trump goes into the kitchen and Chris Hansen walks out. They finally nab the bastard.
Another villain for me would be... Oh, I can't say Wonder Woman. I want to get tied up with that noose, you know.
It's not a noose. She's not a hangman.
Depends how she uses it.
I mean, yes, but that's right. So sorry, Wonder Woman?
Well, it wouldn't be because I mean that's.
Oh, okay.
I'd enjoy that too much.
Sure, yeah, fair enough.
Sweet release.
Hashtag sweet release. I think maybe another one for me would be a relatively like new one in the comics, but a villain called Karma who can sort of read your thoughts and basically like makes you confront all of the things you don't like about yourself or that like cause you anxiety or fear or things like that. She's shown up in like Detective Comics and sort of like a bit of a villain for the Signal, Karma, that because, you know, obviously, I don't want to confront the ugly parts of my personality. Him or the Scarecrow, you know, for the same sort of reason.
Don't want to confront those. Probably stay out of the mirror.
Yeah. Who else for you?
Well, fucking Superman with all his goody two shoes.
Right.
I don't like that. That would not be. I've definitely failed the city. So, Arrow. Well,
yes, yeah. Let's see, a final one. I'm going to say. I would love to take on Dr. Psycho because he is like exactly the sort of person that I block on Twitter daily, who just sort of irrationally hates women and blames them for his own shortcomings.
Yeah. I feel like Ragman would be after me for all my stolen valor.
Sure. Yeah.
I really got to stop wearing those armies.
He would add you to his suit of souls, and then he would have to draw on your ability when he has to do like audio post-production.
He's got to make some money on the side somehow.
He draws on other people to like lift a car or stuff like that. But it's I keep Richard in my back pocket if I need to use Audacity.
Really got to do that noise reduction. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's leave Instagram and head on to Reddit,
where everyone's nice and no one's ever mean.
Not even once. Not ever. You're gonna like this question.
Okay. All right.
First question comes from it's Dr. Hoot. Who asks, hypothetical time. Imagine each rogues gallery is a sports team.
Oh, Jesus.
And the superhero associated with them is their owner. Which villains are each hero looking to trade away for to a fellow hero's team? And what deal do they have to make? Example, Joker's a pain in the ass. Batman decides to trade him to Superman's rogues gallery, but Superman is only going to take him if Batman agrees to take Metallo.
Right.
The Eradicator and Toyman.
Ooh, shit.
Okay. Who gets dealt and who stays? Can you add a sidekick in the deal? Which villain demands a trade?
Right.
Who knows? Go nuts.
Just before we get into this, I want to establish what sport.
Squash?
Sorry, team?
Oh.
It's clearly like big North American pro sports or something like that. You know, baseball, hockey, basketball, football. What are we talking?
Lacrosse?
Jesus Christ.
Golf?
Hockey.
Okay.
You are no help today.
Today?
Sure. Yeah, who are the characters that would like demand trades? I think Two-Face would be difficult to deal with.
Well, who are you first of all?
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna pick what team I am.
Yeah.
Ooh. Then I'm gonna pick. I'm Flash.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna be Team Flash. I'm the Flash. I'm the owner. I think the person that's gonna give me one of the hardest times is going to be like, I think it would probably be Heatwave, because Captain Cold is pretty good on his own, but Heatwave will like just constantly demand to be on the same line as Captain Cold, and like frankly, he's not bringing the same sort of things to the table. He's actually got the opposite abilities of what I need on that line. And so I think I would want to trade him and he wouldn't want to go because he'd want to stay with his teammate. And it's possible Cold would want to get traded if I traded Heatwave. So that would be a source of tension for me, I think. I think that would be one big one. What about you? Who are you? What's your team?
I'll go Batman then.
You're Batman, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's causing you problems? Who are you looking to trade, let's say?
Dick Grayson.
Okay, not a villain. Would he not just be like an assistant coach or like a trainer or something?
Okay, how about this? I'll trade in Poison Ivy, but I'm gonna sweeten the deal with Dick Grayson.
Right. Okay. And why are we trading Poison Ivy?
I find that she doesn't necessarily work with the team very well.
That's true. She doesn't have a ton in common with a lot of those other.
Yeah. She seems very separate. Seems like I have to like change my tactics just for her. It's just like I'd rather have somebody that can kind of work in a team, I'm going to get rid of her.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I think I don't know who I would offer you for Poison Ivy. I might try to give up Trickster.
I've already got one of those.
Trickster's kind of just like he's just fucking around. He's like a Sean Avery or like a fucking a Bergeron. Like he can produce, but he's like fucking around too much.
Trickster feels like the byway version of Joker, and
right.
I already got one of those.
Sure.
So you're gonna have to like sweeten the pot a little bit.
All right. How about this? I'm
throwing in Dick Grayson. You can do whatever you want with him.
Sure. I will offer you Top as a defenseman.
Top?
Yeah. What, you want bottom?
I mean, I am a natural buff.
This is such like a fun little question. I actually really enjoy this a lot. I actually think that as a team, the Flash's team would work better because like the Rogues and the Flash actually team up a decent amount.
I know, but I mean,
Grodd will be massive in net. Good luck, getting a goal in on Grodd. Plus, he'll just like mentally control you, and you'll like whiff on the shot.
I'm giving you Poison Ivy. This is a top tier, and you're a trickster.
I think you need to take this sort of like bullshit deal over to Team Hawkman or something because
Hawkman would grovel at my feet for
he'll
Poison
give you
Ivy.
Monocle or something.
Jesus,
he's got to bolster that third line.
I've got Alfred. I don't need another Monocle here. Come on.
I enjoyed this question. If Tom Taylor, you always write these fun Elseworld things. Can we write like the wacky sports universe of DC Comics? Can that be just like a universe in the multiverse?
I like that.
Where they're just constantly playing hockey or baseball or something against each other instead of actually fighting for good or evil.
That sounds really fun.
That would be fun,
What character would play what role? Yeah, I'd like that.
Yeah.
All right. Last question comes from That Goes Cray.
Ain't it, Jay?
What's she order?
Fish fillet. I'm not going to do more.
I was going to say,
I've done it before. I'm not going to do more.
You really, really want to.
I do, but I won't.
Because you could.
I'm exercising self-control.
You've never
Take
had
notes
self-control before. Never shown that before. Why now? Well, the Cray Ghost asks, why do some heroes have trouble establishing a rogues gallery? Is it because fans would rather buy an issue of, say, Blue Beetle fighting Joker instead of a character that better fits that hero? I can't accept that it's said heroes don't have enough material to create foils for.
Right. Sorry. So basically the question is like, how come some heroes just don't have rogues galleries?
Yeah.
I mean, to go back to like a previous question, I think a lot of it is about exposure, I think if there
Blue
were
Beetle could have some great villains.
Blue Beetle actually does have some interesting villain. Like the Ted Kord Blue Beetle had like the Madmen and stuff like that. Jaime Reyes has like, Black Beetle and like the Reach and some kind of neat characters in there that are sort of tied to the Scarab, which is pretty cool. But I think it's about exposure, right? If there were even half as many issues of Blue Beetle or Elongated Man as there are of Batman, they would at least have more villains. Even if they weren't better known, there would just be more of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest factor, I think, more than anything. But, because, and it's not just exposure, I should say. It's also like solo exposure, right? Like if Blue Beetle is on the Titans and they fight someone, does that person become a Blue Beetle villain? No. It's like sort of shared. You need then that villain to cross over to a Blue Beetle book to come after them, probably more than once, for that to sort of feel like that's what the rivalry is, as opposed to just by happenstance or something like that.
Totally.
So, like even a character like Hawkman has had enough of a run that, Hawkman has, Hathset, Gentleman Ghost, Shadow Thief, Mattermaster, Monocle. Like there's a decent number of villains in there. Whereas, a character that, has only been in a handful of solo issues, just like they don't have a shot. Like there's no, the other thing there too is sometimes heroes kill and that gets rid of recurring villains. Green Arrow kills. That's part of it because Green Arrow's had a long run, but a lot of those villains haven't made it. The Question, like a lot of heroes go there. We even talked about it with Wonder Woman, right? In some circumstances, or in Wonder Woman's case, like sometimes they're mythological or they're just made up and then she kills them or she banishes them and then you never see them again. So I think that's a big part of it. It's just exposure, having more books that aren't Batman books, having more, which is, it becomes an issue of the business of comic books, which we've gotten into before, but yeah.
Well, that was Rogues Galleries.
Yeah. I would say if there's, if you are reading like a big event book or something, that's where you'll tend to see some of these villains that like don't get seen that much. So if you are interested in like, I just want to like expand my horizons, pick up like a big event book, like Infinite Crisis or something like that. You know, get to whatever it is, issue 5 or issue 6, where there's the Battle of Metropolis, and be like, who is that? And you go and find out about them. And then you might learn who their hero is, or, you know, Shadow Thief or something like that. And then you'd be like, oh, fuck, like now I need to find some Hawkman. And maybe you can find some Silver Age Hawkman issues on Comixology, or you find them at your comic book store or something like that. I would always recommend like go to a big event book if you want to find a new character and sort of find like a new way to dive into something. Cause that's where you'll see them. That's where like, and you know, the issue will, like, the writer will probably say, like, every villain in DC is in this panel. You know, they're all lined up for war. And then the artist goes, like, all right. And they, like, flip through the back catalog. They're like, I'm going to throw so-and-so in here, you know? Like, they put all of these ones that you don't see all that much in there.
Yeah.
That's where you should go for that stuff. Big event books, definitely.
Well, with that, you know what time it is.
Oh, no. I'm not
like this. That's right. It is time, like it is every week, for our Dial Doc section.
Right.
Which means that we call back to comics of old, and has now been rebooted. The Dial H for Hero. We do this every week. Dial H for Hero was a comic series where readers would write in their ideas for heroes and villains, and those for an issue would get turned into a random hero. It wasn't enough for a series of their own, but basically they could put it in for this one issue. The main character, the protagonist, would dial hero into a payphone, and then would get turned into one of these readers' newly developed heroes. Or they would write evil and become a villain. So each week we try to come up with our own characters, which we lovely called Dial Doc.
That's right.
So, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
My character is called Dog Frame. Basically,
that actually sounds like a shitty, like, it sounds like a Vertigo character or something.
What Dog Frame can do is basically trap any person or thing in like one of those shitty like pieces of art you could buy that's just dogs doing something, like dogs playing poker or dogs golf. Like it's just like a shitty piece of, it can turn you or a location or whatever into this framed sort of prison in which you're also transformed into a dog. So it's kind of like, you know, the Doom Patrol would fight this character, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that's what I was saying. It seems like a Vertigo character.
This is a villain, I think. You would dial evil, but you would become Dog Frame.
That's really funny.
Yeah. I would trap you in the existential hell of being in a shitty dog picture. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Do you get the abilities if it's like a glow-in-the-dark painting or like...
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think you could also do it so it's like dog Instagram posts.
Oh, yeah.
Like or, you know, if I'm particularly powerful, maybe I can trap you in the time loop of you always seeing your owner come home from war or something.
Like a boomerang?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Dog Frame.
Nice. That's really good. My character is Nostradrunkus.
Okay.
Who can tell the future, but only after they've gotten intensely drunk.
Sure, yeah.
So you have to be able to...
But then they don't remember their predictions?
But also you have to decipher what they're saying.
Oh, right.
But they're like blackout drunk.
Right. It's prophecy, but it's not easily understood.
So it's just like, what's going to happen? And it's like, hey, he's like the guy and...
This is a famous. Right.
You have to decipher.
Can he predict further in the future? The
drunker he gets, without a doubt.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
So if you only need to know like the next 10 minutes, you could probably understand it. It'd be like one drink in.
That's right. He can't remember his past, but
if you're
can
asking
tell you
like what happens in 100 years, then it's like good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Gotcha.
You get him a shot in and he can just be like, this guy's about to walk through the door.
Sure. Yeah. I like it. Nostradrunkus. Why didn't you call him Vodka Damas?
Oh, that would have been good too. You're gonna die when you just It's
I'm gonna die. How?
Just don't
How?
stay out of the stairs.
Don't stay out of the stairs.
It's the stairs.
I can see how frustrating this character is already.
What about the stairs? Don't go up the stairs. Don't go down. It's just the stairs.
God damn it, enunciate.
The stairs.
Or it's like, no, you're predicting too far. You have to make them throw up a bit. It's like, oh, now you're predicting in the range I need.
It's just isn't she odd? Hey, was you? No, just stay on task.
I actually very much enjoy this character.
You also got to be careful about what booze you get them drunk on, because then it depicts like the type of future that you're going to hear about. Right. Is it about your death? Is it about something that you need to solve? Is it about? I see. Yeah. Because if you get them like on tequila, I mean, you could be getting information that's not relevant to what you're trying to find out.
Right. Yeah. It might not be specific to you. It might just be like general. Like, do you know they invent floating soccer balls in 2040?
Like if you get drunk on absinthe, it's just like you're not gonna believe in like 2029. It's like
we've all got fucking flying Ubers.
It's like no. What's gonna happen with this villain?
Right.
What if it is a villain?
I don't know. I'm thinking
maybe we're the villain.
I'm gonna go move to future New Zealand. They got this fucking sheep upside down on a mountain.
But then if you get it like with like whiskey, it's just like. In the future,
whiskey feels like that'd be like a fighting one. Like it'd be predict like a battle.
But if it's like wine, then it's just like the future is. I love you, man.
Yeah.
I still love you.
Sorry, right? Understood. Yeah, I like it. I actually very much like this character.
Not for drunkers. We would love to hear what characters that you residents can come up with. Use the hashtag DialDoc and send us your idea for a hero or a villain, or somewhere maybe in between. Or you can send us a question for next week.
Yeah,
we still don't. It's any day.
Oh, it hasn't?
Well, no, because it's any day between the 8th and the 29th. So,
well, you know what? Let's just say we won't have it.
It's gonna be this. I'm gonna get it this week, but I don't know when. So,
well, that's fine. Let's pick a different thing. If it comes in, we're gonna do our video episode. If it doesn't,
are you drunk? We're gonna do our video.
It's because I was in character for so long. I am gonna say that next week's theme, Bokelman, are you listening? Next week's theme is the emotional spectrum.
Ooh.
All of the different colors and core and
happy, sad, drunk on Christmas. All of the emotional spectrum.
Those are the three. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk the emotional spectrum next week. So send in your questions.
That's right. And of course, the only way to do that is to send us those questions through our various social media platforms.
It's true. The only way to send them is to send them.
Through our Facebook,
Dr. DC Podcast.
Email,
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Instagram,
Dr. DC Podcast.
Our subreddit,
r/Dr.
Don't forget our Twitter,
@Dr. DC.
And of course, on our website,
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
And of course, the doc phone is now open.
208-917-3238.
That's 208-917. What's our iTunes?
DCEU.
And of course, we have a Patreon.
Patreon.com/DrDC. It's only $5 a month. You get a full bonus episode every week.
You must notice that today we didn't talk about San Diego Comic-Con. That's because part of it's going to go on to our special. But
we will do our special that we do every year about the DC news from Comic-Con. That's where that's going. But if you just want to hear our thoughts about the other Comic-Con announcements, there were some big ones.
Yeah.
Some really cool stuff. That's going to the Patreon. That's behind the paywall. But please go subscribe. There's lots of cool episodes up there. We don't always talk DC. We talk about movies, music.
Sometimes we even talk about the Marvel.
We talk about... Shut the fuck up. We talk about... Marvel.
We talk about that other comic book, Shazam.
That would be funny if they also had another like there's just back and forth lawsuits forever.
So yeah, make sure to subscribe to that. And if we get to 20 subscribers, we're at 16. We only need 4 more.
We're getting there, yeah.
We get that. We're going to release another tier. Who knows what's going to be on there?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Even more content.
Even we don't know.
If you can't imagine like more than 2 episodes of us a week,
who knows what you could get?
who knows what's going to happen?
Maybe
For real though, who knows?
Maybe you'll get those Dr. Dick pics.
Yeah. Yeah, the tier we're going to release is all of our like boudoir shoots. And please don't forget the other sort of gambit that we've got out there is if we get to 52 reviews, we will each get a DC Comics tattoo. We're getting there. Like we're motoring through from 30 to where we are now. We're basically at 40 reviews right now.
Jesus. Jesus.
You can send them on Facebook, send them on iTunes, Podbean. I know there's one that's living out there. If you like mow it into your neighbor's lawn and take a picture and send it to us, that counts.
That would be pretty crazy.
If you like take a metal detector and you find a bunch of different pieces of scrap on the beach and then you arrange them into the shape of a 5-star review and take a picture and send it to us, that counts.
Whoa. If you get a big podcast to talk about our podcast on their podcast.
Yes.
And like we're talking like top tier, like
Earwolf, Headgum.
Like, well, not the network, but the actual like
Brain Freeze.
No. It's a big podcast. If you get a podcast that's currently on the like top 100 list to talk about our podcast, I'll get James Remar tattooed on me.
Yeah. If you kill us and then our story is featured on My Favorite Murder, then
if you murder someone and write a review of us in blood and it then gets reviewed on My Favorite Murder, I will literally get James Remar to tattoo me.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't normally condone murder, but I really want you to get that tattoo.
There's only one way to do that. And that's by giving us a review.
That's right.
Well, that's it for this week. Maybe you've already heard our San Diego Comic-Con episode.
That's right.
Maybe you're about to hear the next one because you're already subscribing to Patreon. If you're not, we'll check you next week.
If you are, we'll see you on Friday.
Adios. Superheroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of light. This was a Brain Freeze podcast.